Ladies, we're going to talk about something real today. And I know some of you have been holding this question in your heart for months, maybe years. If he loves me, why won't he marry me? You've cooked for him, supported him, prayed for him, stood by him through storms, and yet you're still sitting there wondering when that ring is coming. Let's get something straight. Love and commitment are not the same thing. You can love somebody without committing your life to them. But if you are in a relationship hoping for marriage, and he's dragging his feet year after year, you need to stop just listening to what he says and start watching what he does. Love without action is like a car without fuel. It might look shiny and full of promise, but it's not taking you anywhere. Feelings are wonderful, but they are fleeting. They can shift with mood, circumstance, and time. True commitment, especially in something as serious as marriage, requires deliberate choices and consistent actions that go beyond simply enjoying someone's company. A person can genuinely care for you, enjoy your personality, appreciate your support, and even speak the words, "I love you," often, yet never take the steps to build a permanent future together. That's because love alone doesn't automatically lead to commitment. It needs to be backed up by decisions and behaviors that show long-term intention. One of the reasons this point is so important is that many people mistake emotional intensity for readiness to commit. They feel swept up in passion, affection, and comfort, and assume that because the feelings are mutual, the path to marriage is inevitable. But in reality, plenty of relationships stay in this warm, in-between stage for years without progressing toward marriage. That's why it's essential to ask, is this person integrating me into their plans, their goals, their life vision? Or am I just part of their present without a guaranteed place in their future? Love without action can be deceptive because it feels fulfilling in the moment. You share laughter, adventures, holidays, and intimate moments. You might meet each other's families, spend most of your free time together, and even talk about someday. But talk is easy. Anyone can dream out loud. It's the doing that separates those who mean it from those who just enjoy the ride. Actions like setting a wedding date, combining finances, or working toward shared goals are markers of intentional love. Without these, the relationship can remain stuck in a loop of affection without progress. This is where clarity and honesty become essential. If marriage is something you want, you can't ignore the lack of tangible movement toward it. Hoping someone will come around after years of the same pattern often leads to disappointment. People rarely change their level of commitment unless there is a deep personal reason to do so. And if they are content with how things are, that reason might never come. A simple truth is this: when someone wants to commit to you in a permanent way, they will make it known through their actions. They will take steps to align their life with yours, remove obstacles that stand in the way, and actively secure a future together. This doesn't mean rushing recklessly, but it does mean intentional forward movement. Without that, love risks becoming a comfortable habit rather than a purposeful journey. Let's consider a short example. Imagine a woman named Lisa who has been dating her boyfriend, Mark, for 7 years. They met in college, moved in together after graduation, and have built a life filled with laughter and memories. Mark tells Lisa he loves her almost every day, and she believes him. But whenever the topic of marriage comes up, Mark says things like, "We're fine the way we are," or "Let's wait until we're more financially stable." Years pass, and although their financial situation improves, the conversation never changes. Lisa realizes that while Mark's love is real in the emotional sense, he hasn't taken any concrete steps toward making her his wife. The result is that she's been living in a relationship built on affection, but not on action. Eventually, she faces the difficult decision: stay in a love that feels good but goes nowhere, or move on to find someone whose love translates into lasting commitment. This example shows how love without action can keep someone tied to a situation that looks and feels good, yet fails to meet their deeper needs and long-term goals. It's not that Mark doesn't care for Lisa, he does, but his love doesn't extend into the realm of permanent commitment. In the end, the kind of love that leads to marriage is not just about shared moments, it's about shared futures. It is love that plans, prepares, and protects. Love without action might keep you happy today, but only love with action will build the tomorrow you truly want. You owe it to yourself to recognize the difference, because time is the one thing you can never get back. When you know what you deserve, you stop settling for feelings alone and start seeking the actions that prove them. You teach people how to treat you through what you allow, what you stop, and what you encourage. In relationships, whether romantic, professional, or personal, your boundaries and standards act as silent instructions for how others can engage with you. If you stay in a situation where you're not getting what you truly want, you are indirectly communicating that the situation is acceptable. This is especially true in romantic relationships, where one person wants marriage and the other seems to be avoiding or delaying it. The way you respond to that delay sets the tone for how the relationship will move forward. If you keep accepting vague promises of someday with no action or timeline, you are signaling that you are comfortable living in uncertainty. That person learns that they don't need to change anything to keep you around, and human nature being what it is, most people will choose comfort over discomfort, especially if they aren't as invested in the goal as you are. When you have clear standards, you set a level of respect for yourself that others can either meet or walk away from. Standards are not ultimatums. They are self-respecting guidelines that show you value your time, your heart, and your future. People often fear that setting high standards will scare someone off. But here's the truth: the right person will not be scared away by your standards. They will be motivated to meet them. The wrong person will be repelled by them, and that's not a loss. It's a blessing, because it prevents you from wasting months or years in limbo. A big mistake many people make is believing that love alone will change someone's willingness to commit. Love can influence, but it is not a substitute for personal decisions and intentions. If you want marriage, yet continue giving all the benefits of marriage without the commitment, living together, sharing responsibilities, being fully emotionally invested, you remove the incentive for the other person to take that next step. In their mind, they already have everything they want without having to make a binding commitment. Your tolerance of the situation becomes the unspoken agreement. Taking control of how you're treated doesn't mean issuing threats or ultimatums. It means calmly and clearly knowing your worth, expressing your needs, and being willing to walk away if they're not met. It's about having enough self-respect to accept nothing less than what aligns with your vision for your life. If you want a partner who will commit to marriage, then your actions must align with that desire. That means not settling into a long-term dating forever arrangement and not allowing someone to keep you in an indefinite holding pattern. Here's a short but clear example. Sarah had been dating Mike for 5 years. They got along well, shared a home, and even talked about kids someday. But whenever Sarah brought up marriage, Mike would say, "We're not ready yet," without offering any plan or timeline. At first, Sarah accepted this, thinking love and time would eventually bring them there. But after another year with no movement, she realized she had been teaching Mike that she would stay, ring or no ring. She sat down with him and explained that marriage was a non-negotiable for her future, and that she couldn't continue without knowing they were moving toward it. She gave him time to think, and within a month, Mike made his decision not to marry. It was painful, but Sarah left knowing she had protected her time and her dream. 2 years later, she met someone whose actions matched his words, and within 18 months, she was married. This example shows how holding to your standards forces clarity. Sarah's decision didn't magically change Mike. It revealed the truth sooner, saving her from wasting more years hoping for something that wasn't going to happen. By standing firm in what she wanted, she taught Mike that her future was not negotiable, and she taught herself that her time and self-worth came before comfort. The reality is that you can't control other people's actions, but you can control what you accept. The moment you stop accepting less than you deserve, you shift the dynamic. Either the other person will rise to meet your expectations, or they will leave, creating space for someone who will. Both outcomes are wins, because both protect your heart and your future. You don't have to be loud or angry about it. Your consistency and willingness to walk away do the teaching for you. You are the one writing the lesson plan for how others treat you, and your actions are the chalk. Fear of losing you can often be a stronger motivator than love alone, because love, while powerful, can be comfortable. When a person knows they have your presence, affection, and support without having to meet your deeper needs or commitments, they may not feel any urgency to change the situation. They enjoy the benefits of the relationship exactly as it is: companionship, emotional connection, perhaps even shared living, without taking the step that you desire most, like marriage. This doesn't mean they don't care for you or that the love isn't real. It means that their level of comfort has removed any need for decisive action. In their mind, there's no risk to maintaining the status quo because you've shown that you're willing to remain in it. People naturally tend to preserve comfort and avoid the discomfort of change, especially if that change requires them to take on more responsibility or alter their lifestyle. Marriage, for example, can be seen as a serious leap, emotionally, legally, and financially. If someone is enjoying a committed relationship without the formal bond, they may ask themselves, why rock the boat? Unless something challenges that comfort, they may not move forward simply out of love. Love is a feeling, but fear of losing something valuable is an instinct that demands action. When a person realizes that your presence is not guaranteed without the commitment you seek, they are faced with a choice: to step up or lose what they treasure. That moment of truth can be more compelling than years of affectionate stability. The turning point often comes when your actions align with your words. Many people say they want marriage, but they stay in relationships that never progress toward it. When your partner sees that your desire for a committed future isn't just talk, that you're prepared to walk away if it's not possible, they are confronted with the reality that keeping you requires change. Suddenly, the risk of inaction becomes greater than the discomfort of taking the next step. That's when decisions get made. However, this isn't about manipulating someone into marriage by pretending to leave. It's about living in a way that reflects your self-respect and your boundaries. When you truly believe you deserve a committed future, you stop tolerating indefinite promises. The fear you create isn't about punishment. It's the natural fear of losing something precious because they didn't take care of it. In this way, your self-respect becomes the wake-up call. Here's a short example that illustrates this point well. Maria had been dating Daniel for 4 years. They lived together, shared bills, traveled, and even talked about someday getting married. Maria wanted marriage and had expressed it many times, but Daniel always said, "We're fine how we are. Marriage is just a piece of paper." Maria loved Daniel deeply, but over time she began to feel frustrated and undervalued. One day, after another deflection, Maria calmly told Daniel that marriage was not just a preference for her, it was a necessity for the life she envisioned. She explained that if he didn't see himself marrying her within a clear time frame, she would have to move out and start building the future she wanted elsewhere. At first, Daniel thought she was bluffing, but within 2 weeks, Maria began looking for her own apartment. She didn't cry, argue, or try to convince him. She simply followed through. The reality hit Daniel hard. The woman he loved was truly prepared to leave, not because she didn't care, but because she valued herself enough to protect her future. That fear of losing her, combined with the sudden absence of comfort, forced him to reevaluate. Within a month, Daniel proposed, not out of panic, but because the prospect of life without her made him realize he was willing to do whatever it took to keep her. Maria's example shows how the fear of loss can create a sense of urgency that love alone may not trigger. If she had continued staying without action, Daniel might have remained content in the same pattern for years. But when she drew a clear line and acted on it, she created the space for him to make a real decision. The result wasn't just a proposal, it was a commitment that matched her worth. The truth is, love without the fear of loss can sometimes lead to complacency. But when someone realizes they could lose a person who enriches their life, their instinct to hold on kicks in. And in relationships, that instinct can be the final push that turns affection into action. The key is that this shift happens not because you threaten, but because you live according to your values. When you show that you will not sacrifice your future for comfort, you give the other person a chance to step into the role you've been hoping they would play, or to step aside so someone else can. A person's true priorities are revealed not by what they say, but by where they put their time, energy, and resources. Words can be warm, affectionate, and convincing, but actions, especially investments, tell the real story. When someone genuinely values something, they make room for it in their schedule, budget, and long-term plans. This is why in relationships, especially when marriage is on the table, you can often gauge how important you are to someone by the way they invest in building a future with you. If a man is willing to sign contracts for car payments, spend hundreds on sports season tickets, upgrade his phone every year, or plan elaborate trips with friends, yet consistently avoids making concrete plans to marry you, that is not about unreadiness. It's about priorities. Commitment isn't just an emotional concept. It's a practical investment. It requires a willingness to sacrifice in the present for something you want in the future. If someone can make those sacrifices for material possessions or hobbies but not for you, it means you are not currently at the top of their priority list, no matter how much they insist you are important. This isn't necessarily about money. It's about willingness. Even if finances are tight, a man who is committed to a future with you will find ways to demonstrate that intention through consistent action. Whether that's saving together, planning timelines, or openly working toward shared goals, a dangerous trap many people fall into is accepting verbal reassurance in place of tangible proof. Hearing, "I love you," or "you mean everything to me," can feel comforting, but if months and years pass without any visible progress toward marriage, those words can become a way of pacifying you rather than building with you. This is why paying attention to investments is crucial. Investments don't lie. If he can put consistent time and money into non-essential things but treats your future together as something to get around to, he's showing you where you stand on his list. It's also important to remember that people find ways to afford what they truly value. Someone might say they can't afford a wedding, yet they're making regular payments on a luxury car or going on multiple vacations a year. The truth is, financial excuses often mask a lack of desire to commit. When something matters deeply, people adjust their spending, cut back in other areas, and work toward making it happen. If those adjustments aren't being made for you, it's because the urgency isn't there. Here's a short example that makes this point clear. Jessica had been dating Ryan for 6 years. He was a fun, generous boyfriend who often surprised her with gifts and took her out to nice dinners. Ryan had a top-of-the-line truck that he traded in every 3 years for the latest model, went on annual ski trips with his friends, and never missed a chance to upgrade to the newest smartphone. Jessica wanted marriage and had brought it up many times. Ryan always responded with, "We're just not financially ready yet," or "Let's wait until things settle down." But when Jessica looked closer, she realized things never actually settled down. Ryan always found something else to invest in first. One day, she asked him a direct question. "If we're not financially ready for a wedding, why are we paying for a truck that costs as much as one every month?" Ryan didn't have a clear answer. That's when Jessica understood. It wasn't that they couldn't afford marriage. It was that marriage wasn't Ryan's priority. He was willing to commit his money and time to things that mattered most to him, but when it came to their future, he preferred to keep it vague. Eventually, Jessica decided she deserved someone who saw building a life with her as the most important investment. This example highlights the key truth. It's not about whether someone can commit. It's about whether they want to commit enough to prioritize it. The man who sees you as his future will treat you as his most important investment, even if it means adjusting other parts of his life to make it happen. He won't keep pushing your shared dreams behind his personal indulgences. At the end of the day, love without investment is sentimental but shallow. When someone values you deeply, they will put tangible skin in the game. They will spend their most precious resources, time, effort, money, and focus on building something lasting with you. And when you recognize that a man's priorities are revealed in where he invests, you stop believing excuses and start believing patterns. Patterns don't lie. A good man and the right man are not always the same person. This is a truth many people struggle with, because when you find someone who treats you with kindness, respects you, and genuinely cares about you, it feels almost impossible to imagine walking away. Society often teaches us that if you find someone good, you should hold on to them because good men are rare. But the reality is a man can be good in every sense of the word, honest, generous, loyal, and still not be the one you're meant to build your future with. Being a good man doesn't automatically mean he's aligned with your goals, dreams, and values. Compatibility goes beyond character traits. It's about vision, timing, life direction, and shared purpose. A man can be wonderful but not want the same things you want in the same time frame. He might not want children when you do. He might prefer a lifestyle that's incompatible with yours. Or he might simply be content with a casual relationship when you're ready for marriage. His goodness doesn't erase the reality that your paths are heading in different directions. Staying with someone just because he's good can keep you stuck in a relationship that will never fulfill your deepest needs. Many women end up in long, drawn-out relationships because they believe leaving a good man makes them ungrateful or foolish. They fear they'll never find someone as kind or as loyal again, so they try to convince themselves to accept less than what they truly want. But that's how years can slip away, waiting for someone to become the right man when he was never meant to be. You can't turn a good man into the right man through patience, persuasion, or sacrifice. If the fundamental elements aren't there, the relationship will always have an expiration date. The right man is good, but he's also in alignment with your vision for the future. He doesn't just love you, he actively builds with you. He shares your non-negotiables, meets you in your values, and works toward the same goals at the same pace. With the right man, you don't have to twist yourself into someone else to keep the relationship alive, and you don't have to constantly negotiate for your needs to be met. The right man's goodness is complemented by compatibility, commitment, and mutual purpose. Here's a short example that makes this point clear. Naomi had been with Paul for 3 years. Paul was kind, dependable, and loyal. He treated Naomi with respect, never raised his voice, and always remembered her birthday. He supported her during hard times and genuinely loved her. But Naomi wanted marriage and children, and Paul didn't. It wasn't that he didn't care about her. He simply didn't see himself as a husband or father. He enjoyed their relationship as it was and didn't want to change it. Naomi kept hoping that because Paul was such a good man, he would eventually come around. But after another year passed with no progress toward her vision of a family, she realized that staying meant giving up her dream. It broke her heart, but Naomi decided to walk away. 6 months later, she met Eric, a man who was not only good but also wanted the same future she did. Within a year, they were engaged. Naomi's story proves that leaving a good man who isn't the right man doesn't mean you're ungrateful. It means you're brave enough to choose the life you truly want. This distinction matters because love and goodness can cloud judgment. You might feel guilty for wanting more when you already have someone who treats you well. But settling for someone who's simply good can lead to quiet resentment and regret, especially if you give up your non-negotiables just to keep them. Choosing the right man means choosing alignment, not just affection. The truth is, there are many good men in the world, but the right man for you will be both good and right, good in character and right in compatibility. And when you stop confusing the two, you free yourself to find a relationship that is not only kind and loving, but also in harmony with the life you're meant to live. When you see yourself as the prize, you understand that your time, energy, and love are valuable and not to be handed out carelessly to anyone who isn't willing to honor them. Too often, people slip into the mindset of being an option rather than the standard. They tolerate half-hearted effort, inconsistent communication, or vague promises because they fear losing the person they care about. But when you operate from a place of true self-worth, you recognize that the right person will step up to meet your value, and the wrong person will step aside. Seeing yourself as the prize is not arrogance. It's self-respect. It's the understanding that your presence in someone's life is a privilege, not something they can take for granted. Acting like the option happens when you chase, plead, or bend your standards to fit someone else's comfort zone. It's when you overextend yourself, doing all the work to keep a relationship alive, while the other person puts in minimal effort because they know you'll always be there. This dynamic shifts dramatically when you begin to act like the prize. Instead of begging for time, attention, or commitment, you let your boundaries speak for you. You stop over-explaining why you deserve better and start living in a way that naturally filters out those who won't rise to the occasion. Seeing yourself as the prize changes the way you respond to uncertainty. Instead of waiting around for someone to figure things out, you keep moving forward with your life. You focus on your own growth, goals, and happiness, and you make it clear through your actions, not threats, that anyone who wants to be with you must match your effort and commitment. People are drawn to those who value themselves because self-respect commands respect from others. It's important to note that acting like the prize doesn't mean being cold, manipulative, or entitled. It doesn't mean demanding perfection from a partner or treating them like they're lucky just to breathe the same air. It means having a healthy understanding of your worth and refusing to settle for relationships that drain you or keep you in limbo. It's about knowing that your love is not free. It's earned through mutual respect, trust, and consistent action. When you carry yourself like the prize, you stop tolerating situations that leave you feeling undervalued. You don't argue for your worth, you live it. And the beauty of this shift is that it automatically changes the type of people you attract. Those who are looking for someone to take advantage of will pass you by, and those who are looking for someone to cherish will take notice. Your self-worth becomes a filter that saves you from wasting time and energy on relationships that were never going to give you what you deserve. Here's a short but powerful example. Amber had been dating Chris for 3 years. Chris was affectionate but inconsistent. Sometimes he would talk about the future. Other times he would avoid the topic entirely. Amber wanted marriage, but every time she brought it up, Chris would say, "Let's not rush things." She found herself constantly trying to prove she was worth marrying by cooking for him, planning trips, and rearranging her schedule around his. One day, after yet another vague answer about the future, Amber had a realization. She had been acting like she was trying out for the role of wife. Instead of recognizing that she already had the qualities of one, she stopped bending her life around Chris's indecision and started focusing on her own goals, friendships, and passions. She didn't issue threats. She simply lived in a way that made it clear she wouldn't settle for uncertainty. Within months, Chris noticed the shift. The comfort of knowing Amber would always be there was gone, and he had to decide whether to step up or lose her. Ultimately, Chris chose not to commit, and though it hurt, Amber walked away with her dignity intact. 6 months later, she met someone who valued her from day one and didn't need convincing to commit. Amber's story shows that acting like the prize is about self-leadership. It's not about changing someone else. It's about holding yourself to a standard that demands alignment from the people you allow into your life. When you truly believe you are the prize, you stop tolerating delays, excuses, or half-love. You become someone who inspires action, not someone who waits for it. And in doing so, you create space for the right person to step in and treat you with the love, respect, and commitment you've always deserved. Time is the most valuable resource you have, and it's the one thing you can never get back once it's gone. Money can be earned again, opportunities can be recreated, even relationships can be rebuilt, but time only moves in one direction. Every day you spend with someone who will not or cannot give you what you truly need is a day you lose from the life you want to live. When you are in a relationship where marriage, family, or shared long-term goals are important to you, but your partner keeps postponing, delaying, or avoiding that commitment, you have to understand the cost isn't just emotional. It's time, and that's priceless. It's easy to underestimate how much time slips by in relationships that are stuck in limbo. You start with a few months of patience, then it turns into a couple of years, and before you know it, half a decade has gone by with no real movement toward the future you envisioned. The danger is that while you're waiting, life keeps moving forward. Your dreams don't actually pause just because your partner's mind is undecided. If you want children, you're moving closer to an age where that becomes harder. If you want to buy a home together, every year you delay could change your financial opportunities. If you want to grow into a certain lifestyle, every year you waste is a year you could have been building it. Many people stay because they believe love alone will eventually push things forward. But love without action becomes a comfortable routine, and comfort can be the biggest thief of time. It lulls you into thinking, maybe next year, until years have passed. The problem is next year isn't guaranteed. Your energy, youth, and opportunities are all limited resources, and once they are gone, they don't return in the same form. That's why protecting your time is an act of self-love. It's not selfish, it's responsible. Valuing your time means being honest about where your relationship is headed and whether it's aligning with your vision. If your partner is unwilling or unable to match your timeline for commitment, you have to decide how much more of your life you're willing to give to waiting. This isn't about rushing someone into a decision they're not ready for. It's about recognizing when their pace and your goals are fundamentally out of sync. It's also about understanding that staying with the wrong person blocks the right person from entering your life. Every year you give to someone who will never truly commit is a year you could have spent with someone who is ready to build with you. That's why it's so important to stop treating your time like it's infinite. It's not. The sooner you recognize its value, the sooner you start making decisions that protect it. Here's a short but clear example. Elena had been dating David for 8 years. When they started, she was 27, and she made it clear she wanted marriage and children. David agreed someday, but whenever the topic came up seriously, he would say things like, "We're not ready yet," or "Let's just enjoy life for now." Elena loved David deeply and believed that with enough patience, he would eventually propose. By the time Elena turned 35, nothing had changed. She realized that she had spent almost an entire decade waiting for a decision that never came. During that time, friends had met partners, married, and started families while she remained in the same place. The realization hit her hard. She had been giving the best years of her life to someone who didn't share her timeline. She decided to end the relationship, not out of anger, but out of love for herself and respect for the time she had left to create the future she wanted. 2 years later, Elena met someone who was ready for commitment from day one, and within 18 months, she was married and expecting her first child. Looking back, she wished she had valued her time sooner, because while she couldn't get those years back, she could make sure not to waste any more. Elena's story is a reminder that time is a non-refundable gift. You can spend it freely, but you can't ever get a refund. Every day you give to the wrong relationship is a day you can invest in the right one. That doesn't mean you have to rush love, but it does mean you should be intentional with where and with whom you spend your life's most precious currency. When you start treating time like the treasure it is, your standards rise, you stop accepting, maybe one day, and start requiring clarity. You stop hoping someone will come around and start choosing people whose actions match your goals from the start. You begin to understand that the years ahead are worth protecting just as much as your heart. Because love is beautiful, but time is irreplaceable, and the person who truly values you will never waste either. Listen, love is beautiful, but marriage is more than love. It's about vision, security, and commitment. Don't spend your best years hoping someone will come around. If he truly sees you as his forever, he won't risk losing you. The truth is simple. A man who wants to marry you will move mountains to make it happen. A man who doesn't will give you excuses. And I don't know about you, but I've never seen a woman walk down the aisle holding a bouquet of excuses.